Good morning, good morning, good morning. Happy Tuesday, June 4th. I'm excited to be here. Of course, if you have watched these sessions, you know the first 20 to 30 seconds is typically dedicated to making sure that all of the technology is working the way it is supposed to. And so let's see, Facebook, I'm going to make sure that you guys can all see me and see our guest. So that is on. And one last click. Awesome. So LinkedIn is on, Facebook is on, YouTube is always the easiest of the group and always the most cooperative of all the technologies, and Instagram I didn't even bother. But either way, good morning and welcome. My name is Tanisha Stolnaker. I am the CEO of SVS. We are your go-to systems and automation operational support agency. I am excited just to be here with you guys. It has been a crazy summer already, and it's literally only like a couple hours into it and it's been nonstop go go go. So I'm excited to be here, and I'm excited to have my guest Alie Murphy, and I would love, Alie, if you could introduce yourself.
Yes, I'm Alie Murphy. I have a company called Finish Green. We do business consulting and build custom CRMs for a wide variety of industries. We also include project management, team management. So, yeah.
I love it when I get another fellow tech person and, systems person, but that is not why we're here today. So I will do my best to not go completely off on a tangent of all things buttons and tech and our favorite go-to systems, but maybe we'll save that for another day. So I'm going to stay focused. But I always give the guests an opportunity to pick their topics. And I think that we have like 15, 20 different topics to choose from. And so you picked effective networking and relationship building. So I'm curious, especially given that your focus is very similar to mine when it comes to systems and things like that. Why that topic?
I think networking is the key to starting your business and building it. We always talk about when we start businesses, we always start with our friends and our family. And so, what happens after that when you've used up all those resources? So, I think going out into your communities, letting people know what you're doing that are right outside of your door is a great place to start.
Okay. So let's talk about your community.
Yeah.
What's around you? Tell people where you are.
So, I am a part of the New Kent Chamber. Also, I mean, there's the Rotary clubs. In every community, there is something you can join that is business oriented. They want to your community wants your small business to grow. They want you to grow that in their community. So, like I said, I go to the chamber meetings. I go to the Rotary Club meetings, and there's like community small business events that happen in our community all the time. I can't even make it to all of them.
Oh,
So if you just check Facebook or the Meetup app, there's always things to join. And then once you kind of get in, even just one group, you know about all of the groups. So
so would you say that you focus most of your concentration locally and not in the world?
funny you said that. I for the probably the past 4 years, I only did nationwide stuff. I actually did not do in person networking very often. I was asked to speak, so I do some speaking engagements, but other than that, I did not really go out to the community until this past year. Which the reason I decided to do that, and so glad that I did. I kind of did it backwards. Typically you start in your community and you work your way out. And part of me really feels like I wish I would have done that. Um, but I went out because my business is able to run a lot without me. And so it was kind of the first time I was able to start giving back. I have had so many people feed me and help me grow that it was really my time to get out in the community. And then I was just started realizing the impact of being out in these community small business groups and just regular community groups, getting to know people.
So it's funny because you and I have had similar, I guess, pathways because I also did not start locally. Now, there were some local clients that I got just because I had friends that already owned businesses when I started mine, so they just came to me.
Yeah.
But outside of them, I immediately just was like, if if locals here, I just skipped all the way, across the world and started there. And I guess there's positives and not so positives to both. Um, I would say I went through a period where for a little while I started doing some local networking, like through like BNI groups and things like that. I don't think that was the best fit for me or my business type. Um, but now when I do go, and I don't go nearly as often as I probably should, when I still go to in-person things now, I approach it differently than I did a couple of years ago, where I was just trying to educate the world of the importance of systems and automation. And I'm sitting in a BNI with somebody who sells, he's a painter or
Yeah.
a builder, and they're just kind of smiling and nodding. And it's like, good for you. And that means nothing to me. So,
Yeah.
while there's some great community groups, it definitely took a while to find some of the groups that actually have people in the room that A, make sense as potential clients, but B, even care about what it is that I'm doing in the first place. Um, I still have some gaps with in person because I've worked virtually for a very, very long time, and I'm a bit of a homebody. And so it takes some work to push me
So
out the front door.
I was gonna ask. So I'm an introvert,
Absolutely.
and so actually I probably hid behind that a little bit, um, but it really started impacting me last year when the people who were really put a lot of time and effort into me and just love and nurture to get me where I'm at really really made me feel like I needed to start doing that.
Okay.
And stepping outside your comfort zone, that's the only way really to grow as people in general, as human beings, and in your business and anything you want to do in life. If you want to grow, you got to step out of that comfort zone. And that was a big one for me. It still is. Still is. Every time I go to a meeting, it's still one of those things that I really have to, make sure my mindset's right.
Well, you tapped on a good point there. So I am an introvert. I'm also very stubborn. And I'm saying that slowly because I'm sure if my husband ever saw this, he'd have passed out with the shock that I said it out loud. But the reason I'm pointing it out is, and I just was saying this weekend, ironically, to a 14-year-old at a swim meet. I don't do things that I don't want to do, or at least I try to avoid them. And so, with me being an introvert, people are like, "Oh, I would never know this to talk to you," and I was like, "No, you're not going to know it to talk to me here because I'm home and I'm
Mm-hmm.
comfortable and I'm wearing leggings right now."
Mm-hmm.
And so I make my environment as chaotic as it can be. I make it comfortable for me to where I can be myself and be good in that. So when I go to networking groups, if within a few minutes I'm not feeling it, there's nothing about this that's going to hide that. And so I have learned to be really selective with where I start forming relationships, because if it's not the right fit for me, it actually is almost a detriment to me, to
100%.
where now people are like, gee,
I can totally relate to this. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I've even heard people say, like, when I finally met them in person after years online, they're like, quite honestly, I didn't know how to take you in some of those meetings, but now that we're in like a space together, it's completely different. And I'm like, well, we had like a 2-year head start of awkward online meetings. So that now that we're in front of each other in person, it feels like we've known each other for years. So I guess I know for me, when I go into those spaces, especially in person, I tend to be an observer for a little bit, just to decide, do I even want to try? But if I do, I'm scoping out the people who I think I could kind of start something with a little sooner than later. I'm listening to how people talk. I'm listening to how they interact with one another. I'm looking at facial expressions. I'm looking at all the stuff. What about, I guess, how do you navigate new spaces?
So that was a really good point that you brought up about kind of sitting back and watching everyone. So I started, I don't know if you've heard of 212, but I started going, it's very similar to BNI.
Okay.
Kind of more low key, more comfortable. So I started visiting those groups. And what I love about that is that you don't have to immerse yourself immediately in the middle of people, because that's not I can't that's not me.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna split up a conversation to introduce myself. That's not me. I will end up sitting in the corner and not happily watching everyone.
Yep.
So in the 212 meetings, just like BNI, you go around, everybody introduces themselves, you get business cards. But what I like about that is I know after everyone goes around who I want to talk to. I don't have to break up a conversation to introduce myself to figure out if that's who I want to talk to.
Yeah.
So it's nice to be able to see everyone. Okay, now I've kind of unofficially met them, but I know who they are. I can address them by their first name. And it's more comfortable that way versus walking into a mingle type situation. That's not a comfort. That's way out of my comfort zone for me.
Yeah, I'm not much of a mingler.
No.
Well, at all. I can't even say like not even a little bit. And I'm not even going to put this on the screen. One of my friends just chimed in saying online me versus real life me. There's some overlap, but the facial expression of real life me is even worse than the online one. Thank you, Leonard. The funny thing is with like, and it's not to harp on BNI. I think that when it comes to networking groups, it is a good way to get started if you're not naturally in the networking mode of things, because there's a structure in most of them where everyone's going to introduce themselves. Everyone has the opportunity to talk about what they do. There is definitely an art to the introduction, and Lord knows I have flubbed it plenty of times. In the NASDAQ entrepreneurial stuff that I do, facilitation, I always give it myself as examples, like when you get 30 seconds to introduce yourself and you panic and word vomit on people, where it's like, I remember those BNI meetings where I'm gonna be like, oh, and I have an agency and we do Kajabi and we do Honeybook and we do Dubsado and we do this and we do this and we can build your website and we do SEO. And it was like, people would start like this. And then it was slowly like, and then it's like, all right, well, I lost them again.
Yeah.
So the plus about me being an observer is that I started to flip it and not make it about my introduction versus about listening to what they were saying. And then being able to kind of say, oh, I heard when you mentioned this. Have you considered this? To where I started just by talking about things that I know really well, but tying it to what they just mentioned as either a pain point or a need or something they're excited about. So then I didn't feel the pressure of giving the spiel. And even now, like just at the start of this live, I think it was like 6 seconds long, so it could probably be a little longer, but it's just, again, I really want it to be something where I can naturally get myself into a conversation versus feeling like I'm selling. And I'm not against selling. I love selling, but I don't want it to feel like selling. I want it to feel like a conversation.
Yes.
And it should be fluid and it should feel natural. And I'm not pulling or pushing somebody, and I'm not being pulled or pushed. I would say that since I'm still a work in progress with in-person events, I have found some pretty cool like online ones that aren't too big. They're not super small, but they kind of break the code a little bit. Somebody that I used to go to her networking group, it was 100 Coffee Chat Club. Her name is Michelle Danio. If you don't, she's on LinkedIn. I still can't tell you how I got into that club. It was on my calendar one day and I had some time. And so I showed up. But I loved the fact that she didn't do the take 30 seconds to talk about yourself type of deal. Each week it was some random question that was the opener. And I've had more natural conversation from that than I have with so many other groups that I've been part of.
That's a great idea. I like the random question because it opens everyone up and makes them feel comfortable too.
Because like one of the weeks, I'm pretty sure like one of the questions, something along the lines of like, what's going well for you this week? Whether it's business, family, or whatever, what's going good? What are you celebrating? And I couldn't think of the last time that somebody asked that in a networking meeting, so it was almost like, once we got in and talked about something, it could be like, hey, I got a new client. I think one of the weeks was like, I'm still here. I haven't shut down yet. That's all I got. But the amount of immediate support and stuff that we started to give one another using that format was so much different than the, you know, tell us your A, your B, or C, and following that script every single time.
Yeah, I love that icebreaker question that Leonard was. Icebreaker is a
Yep.
great word for that. But yeah, I love that idea of the question versus being so stiff. You know, it kind of actually brings out genuinity in people. So I think that's great. I love that.
So tell me if you have any, and if you say you don't, I'm gonna just think that you're a unicorn. Have you had some scenarios where the networking just did not network the way it was supposed to?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, I've walked into one-on-ones with people where as well where I walk in, we say hi, Alie, there, whoever, and I'm like, this is not stranger danger. Get out of here. You
Yeah.
know. Or but I've also walked into some networking groups where I'm like, I'm gonna stay for the duration, but I know at this point, probably not coming back.
Yeah.
Not because it's a terrible group, but just because it's not a good fit for me.
Yeah.
So,
Well, no, I've been in some that are just terrible groups. And again, this gives it away
yeah,
every single time. And what's worse is when they follow it up with like, "Oh, will we see you again?" And I'm like, "No,
yeah, yeah,
you won't
yeah.
ever."
I'm pretty open about that too. I'll say, I probably won't come back to visit, but maybe I know somebody who this group would fit better than me.
So
Because I don't
you're
like to
nicer.
people's vibe, because people work hard. They most of them do it for free. So I mean, like I said, that obviously it works for other people if other people are showing up. You know,
True. Do
so
you think that there's value in is which okay, so when you're looking at networking and networking groups opportunities, whether it's in person or online, do you see more value in paid versus free, or have you not, is there no difference?
paid is all. There's always a bigger difference, quality difference, commitment difference, accountability difference. I think it makes all the difference.
I mean, yes, in the last few years, I've definitely done more paid than free. I do love a good free one if I can find it. I mean, if I can find a good free one, I'll take it. But
I
yes,
know.
sadly for the wallet, the paid ones definitely there's more return on the literal investment. Um, but I will say I have like a window that I give myself with paid groups where I don't lock myself into a year if I can avoid it. Um, I'm going to give it like 90 days of actual effort where I'm giving 100% for 90 days. And then I'm going to reevaluate what came out of it. And even if it wasn't like a sale, like if there was a partnership or some collaboration or even the kind of a business bestie friendship that comes out of it, if something like that came out of it, I might still see the value. But then at the end, if it's like, I still couldn't tell you the name of any single person that I've met, and I couldn't tell you what they do,
Yeah.
then I'm going to move on. But I tried to intentionally keep the one-to-ones as much as possible virtual, mainly because of that whole vibe thing. If the vibe's going to be off, I'd rather it be while I'm still sitting at home versus I just put makeup on, put a bra on, put clothes on, and got in the car and actually left to meet somebody. And that was the other challenge with some groups was like, well, I like to do one-to-ones in person. And I'm like, oh, so we're just never going to have one. Got it. I wish you the best. Good luck. Because part of it was because I could already tell we weren't going to line up
Yeah,
as clients.
yeah, we're not going to be a good fit.
You
Yeah,
know, I don't need to hire you. You don't need to hire me. You know, we are not on the same page about a lot of things. And while that doesn't mean that we could never have a good conversation, it's not worth it right this second for me to like leave the house
yeah.
for this random conversation.
I found masterminds to be very, very helpful as well. Not just in helping my business, but also helping my networking and meeting people who are on the same level or can bring me up,
Mhm.
introduce me to the right people if they're not the right people. So I found that very beneficial as well. And that is a commitment. They're typically a lot more expensive, but if you know you're going to get your money's worth out of it, it's worth it.
I can safely say, and I don't know if it's a good or bad thing, while I've been in coaching programs before, I don't know that I could say I've been in what I would consider a genuine mastermind. I think I thought I was going into them and definitely invested the money. But
Mhm.
then once I got into the space, like half the people were much further behind me in their stage of business. And that's not a knock against them. It's just that
Not the right room for you.
it was not the right room. I kind of want to go, if I'm going into a mastermind, quite frankly, I want to be the dumbest person in that room because that's where I'm going to learn the most.
Yep.
And if I'm doing the supporting and stuff like that, then I'm like, well, I just paid to work, you know?
Yep.
And, you know, I walk away with the same knowledge that I walked into the door with. And so I would love, and this is not a door opener to everybody with a mastermind to come into my inbox. Let me just say that. But I would like to get to a point where I kind of find that room of people that is like, hey, let me pull you along with us
Mhm.
so that we can all, you know, level up.
Yeah. Most of them you have to travel, especially from here. Most of them you have to travel to. But I'm telling you, I there's a mastermind that I'm in. It's called Sweetheart Mastermind.
Okay.
That's a newer mastermind, and it really changed my business. I mean, really changed my business on the at the first mastermind I went to. So
Where'd you
that
travel to? Was it someplace good?
was in Georgia. Oh, they had it was at a beautiful like mountain style resort. Beautiful. They have them at resorts for the most,
Mhm.
or like vacation destination type places. And
Yeah.
masterminds do that. I've been to ones in hotels too, which have been great as well. Just it's nice to go to a vacation spot. Um, but like this year they're doing it in Myrtle Beach, I think. So, anyways, it what changed for me was not necessarily the knowledge of what things I brought home to my business. It was more of the confidence building and people seeing value where I didn't. And sometimes, like I said, it's not about like, oh, this is the stuff I need to put on social media. It's not always about that. It can be just shifting your mindset. I mean, that has changed my business more than anything is learning how to shift my mindset.
Hmm.
So
Now I'm gonna have to look this mastermind up, you know, and see. Because there definitely is a point where where your business hits a certain plateau,
mhm.
and it's not that things aren't good or but they're not bad, but they're not growing anymore.
Mhm.
And so I think that's where, at least in my opinion, that's where the network you have around you, the relationships you have around you, that's where that stuff comes in to help kind of almost like shock you back into play to where you can keep growing again.
Yeah.
Um, so question, would you say that you have, and take immediate family and like your support, like your family support system out of it, would you say that you have like a go-to business best friend?
Yes, I do. I might have a couple, less than five, but I'm surrounded by a group of people that um, tell me if I'm not on the right path. They tell me things I don't want to hear, but things I need to hear. But they also know how to lift me up as well and bring me with them. And
That,
most of them are above. I don't want to say above me, but like on another level than I am, which is what I always, like you said, you don't want to like walking into a room where you're the smartest. Well, I want to surround myself with people who are smarter than me all the time because I want to continuously know that there's a place for me to go and I can keep going.
I love that. I don't have it, but I love that. I'm working on it. That's the thing that I figured, um, that I would work on next, and not in the sense of, will you be my best friend? It's not that,
Yeah. Yeah.
but kind of looking for those people who, without me, like I'm not going for free advice or anything like that, but there's just a natural connection
Mm-hmm.
on both ends. I think I've found like the first couple of potential people
Mm-hmm.
because we met in person. Ironically, first I actually left the house, traveled, went someplace, and we met, and that click was so immediate that it felt like we'd known one another for years. And so in our cases, we're probably around the same place in our business. So for right now, we can support one another of you're not crazy, I'm not crazy.
Mm-hmm.
It's just kind of crazy right now. You know,
Yeah.
and to just to more validate, like, don't close your business. This is just a weird patch. The market's shifting, and bouncing ideas and stuff off one another and encouraging each other. And so I think that that's for me where I've always been very independent and not the type that necessarily leans on other people. I'm typically the person people lean on.
Mm-hmm.
I realize that in entrepreneurship, there needs to be somebody, for you to kind of go to and say, like, all right, I'm hitting the wall here.
Well, this life can be really lonely.
Yep.
You don't have that.
I think what's gotten me this far though is that by creating an agency, I kind of created my own small ecosystem.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So where if nothing else, I can go to them, and they will call me out.
Yeah.
I got it this morning of, hey, when are you going to update or edit that blog post? So side note, I will have it to them tomorrow because I said so. I've said it publicly. I will make sure it's updated and sent tomorrow. But that's been the thing. And I think that's honestly why I've not necessarily looked outward for that support system, is because my team has been with me for so long and we formed a relationship. And that's still amazing. And there's value in that. But there is still value in having that person that's 6 steps ahead of you, being able to say, look, chick, you're gonna have to leave the house.
Yeah.
you know,
You
you're,
have to do hard things.
yeah.
Yeah.
So you said you were a part of the New Kent Chamber?
Yes.
I was looking at them. I'm not sure. Not New Kent, but Hampton. Or Hampton Roads, which is
I highly recommend it. And the reason is because, especially for what you do, I'm sure there is no one that can help people with the things that you do. And so if you can be that go-to person and add value to your community, and not just your community, but your governing system,
yeah.
that is huge. That's huge.
Did you all see that light bulb go off at the same time above my head? Just put the little thing up. The irony is I actually started looking into chamber March 2020. And I had signed up for an event. I was going to start networking. And then, of course, everything shut down. And I was like, is that event still happening? So, but I never saw it get rescheduled or anything. And then I moved on and I got busy and I just kind of forgot about it.
Yeah.
But it was recent where I was like, I never did follow back up to see, are they doing events again? Are we networking again? I would like to think, so thank you for the reminder that I will take a look, because you are right. There are some rooms where I am one of the only people that do what I do.
Mm-hmm.
And that is great as long as the other people are people who need what I do. I think that was the biggest challenge when I first started doing stuff and doing the BNIs and some of those more traditional networking groups. Yes, I was the only person that did what I did, but again, that two-headed unicorn where people were like, oh, that's nice. And then they move on, at the time, my business wasn't rebranded. And so we were Stallmaker Virtual Solutions. And I remember it happened a few times. Oh, I would love to learn more about your services. And, I would love to hire somebody on your team if you can find me the right person. And I just needed them to come in the office a couple days a week. And I'm like, but we don't do that. And they were like, oh, it's 100% virtual. So much so I put it in the business name. I can't make it more virtual than what it is. Short of us just being invisible on camera. The fact that I'm here talking to you in person is already the miracle. So I don't even want to be sitting here right now. I would love to be on a screen talking to you about the same stuff. It's that virtual.
Yeah.
But it was just the wrong room. And it wasn't that they were the wrong people. They were just the wrong people for me.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's time for me to, shift and find some new rooms for sure.
Yeah, I think being in the right room, that's something I've really focused on the last 2 years. I've gone in person this past year, so I decided to do that last quarter of 23. And then the last 2 years, I've really focused when people have asked me to come speak or, do anything. I've really asked myself, is this the right room for me? Because if it's not the right room for me, then I'm also not going to be able to add value to anyone in the room. So I want to make sure I'm showing up for people in the room.
I think it's also not just the right room and being able to add value. I think it's also having rooms that are constantly growing and evolving.
Yes.
Because I like the continuity of knowing the people in the room. Sometimes what I find is I'll get into a group, it's going good, and then I've kind of worked my way through everyone and kind of figured out, are we a fit or not a fit, or are we a good referral source or not, or things like that. But the group never shifts or changes. You fast forward a year and it's the same core 20, 30 people that there were at the beginning of the year. And so now it's like, well, it's not a knock against you or me, but I clearly know what you do. You clearly know what I do. We already know how to reach one another. If I had a referral for you, you'd have it, and vice versa. Why am I still paying to be in this room? Like, what's new that's happening? And so that constant evolution is definitely going to be important. How often are you going to in-person events?
So I only do meetings of any kind, whether they're Zoom or in person, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
Okay.
So I have a goal that I'm trying to meet actually, but so I was doing Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday every week. And now I'm doing, like, this week I'll only do Wednesday, Thursday.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you use like Monday, Friday as admin or CEO days?
Yep, that's exactly right.
Yeah, I've had Fridays blocked for years. Monday, I just don't start before like 11. So I don't mind taking the meetings. It's just not going to happen in the morning. And I used to force it, and then it never worked well. So when I've had somebody now that's like, can we meet on a Monday morning? Like, no, you don't want that.
Yeah.
You don't want that at all. I mean, you think you do. I'm Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, like, on a Monday. It's not cute. It's not. It's a terrible way for me to do business if I want people to like me. So I'm just cut it off now. But Fridays I've always blocked because I homeschool, and we used to do field trip Fridays with the swim team she was on then. So it was just kind of a good day to get either caught up on something or to know that we're going to get out of the house and hang out. And it was heavily during the pandemic, so we were always outside in open space and things like that. And we shifted our homeschool program, so we've not done a field trip Friday in quite some time, unless we're counting last weekend's trip to Lynchburg as a field trip. So I would love to get back to that, but I've still kept Fridays blocked so that if nothing else, there's one day that I know I don't have to be on.
Yep.
And if I sit in pajamas the entire day, that is perfectly fine.
Yeah.
If I do take a meeting, it's typically going to be a networking meeting, and it's because this person is somebody that I already know, that I really enjoy. So it's super intentional. That might happen like every couple months, but still, I don't take certain meetings, like my networking meeting link. There's only a few per month because I was going through a period where I was trying to really connect, which is good. But then I was doing more networking calls than sales calls.
Yeah.
And I was finding that in a given, because I color code my calendar, it was like 2/3 of my week were spent in networking calls. And here I am, burnout and exhausted and tired of being on, and still no new clients came out of it because they were networking calls, and we were all, we were never going to be each other's client in the first place. So I think it's cool to be intentional about how you use that time. But I am trying to figure out, like, what's the cadence of me putting on clothes and leaving the house to network, and I haven't quite figured out that sweet spot of, is it something that I want to try to do monthly, or monthly it feels too much and quarterly feels too little. So, but I'm like, yeah, I'm going to have to figure out like that cadence.
So my goal, I was just going to do one a week. And because I had this big goal that I wanted to reach by the end of the year, I was like, well, I'm going to get it all in now. And then by mid-year, now not have to do it anymore. I know that sounds crazy because I want to do it because this is my year to add value and give back. But then a piece of me, big piece, is like I would rather do Zoom calls and not, like you said, not have to get out of my yoga pants. And showing up in person is a lot more exhausting than just doing it like this,
Yeah.
So I started doing that, right? I was really trying to get them all in, and man, I faced some big burnout from it. And I was also not able to follow up because I was so busy trying to get
Yeah.
all this in. Um, so that made a big difference for me to recognize that I needed to slow down and get back to the real reason of why I wanted to do it, which is adding value, not being burnout. And once you're burnout, you don't want to add value. You're like, screw this. I'm not doing it. You know.
Yeah. And
So
in nearly 6 years, I think I've hit like 3 good solid, like Olympic level burnouts.
yeah, I think that's pretty normal because entrepreneurs just want to get at it all the time. When they have a goal they want to meet, let's do this right now. Let's get it over with. Let's get it done. Let's reach that goal. But it hurts us also because we either don't end up reaching that goal because we reach burnout before we get to that goal, or we don't plan out what reaching that goal looks like very well. And so that's when we start cramming everything in and it doesn't really work out. It kind of
And then
turns
we get to beat ourselves up when it didn't work out.
exactly.
Which makes sense the first time, but by the third time, it's like, I kind of knew this was happening and I still ended up managing to do it anyway.
So you don't see it happening as it's happening until you reach that burnout. You're like, well, how did I not? I've done this before. How did I not see this?
Yeah.
So.
It becomes a joke in my head where it's like, and I literally to myself, it's like, well, shit, here we are again.
Yeah.
But, and the funny thing is, this is the time of year where it's most likely to happen to me, because this is the time of year where everything in my life comes to like, it's like attacking one another. So, homeschool, that's done. She's done until, August, but she's a year-round swimmer and she's a very competitive swimmer. So the meets are 3-4 days. But then this is the time of year where summer swim also starts. And so for the first month, it's conflicting schedules where she's like literally in 2 places at once. And I'm on the board of both places. And so there's like all of this need because of the time of year. And then there's going to be plenty of times this summer where for 5-6 days in a row, there's a swim meet. There's Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. And then I might have another one on a Wednesday just for good measure, And so
mom grind right now.
So for a good, and it's so funny because she's almost 14, and she said the other day, she's like, if I plan my schedule out right, I'll essentially be at the pool for like 4 hours a morning. Isn't that awesome? And I was like, I love that for you.
I love that for you.
But I'm going to be there as well. And so while I want you to do your best, no, I can't lie and say that I'm going to be as excited. So I've literally had to rework my whole schedule because last year I didn't. And then I would have calls scheduled at 9, not thinking that I'm still sitting at the pool. And then I would try to take the call. There's kids everywhere. It just didn't work. And so I'm trying to be honest with the life that I have and knowing that for 6 to 7 weeks, it's chaos. And so that I don't go into, Q4 this year as exhausted as I've had the last Q3, Q4, 5 Q4s, and acting surprised like I didn't see this coming. So, there's definitely, I'm taking some tidbits from our conversation, even though it wasn't necessarily meant specifically for me. And I'm sure that, our audience is also going to take some stuff from it. But I definitely see the value, whether it's virtual or in person, of, again, being intentional again, because I have been before, but I've kind of taken a break on when I'm going to put myself out there to build new relationships or grow the relationships that I have, but in a way of balancing the real life that I also have as well, between team, family, business, and things like that. So is there anything that you would like to share or anything you have coming up, any events, any offers, anything you want to tell people about?
So I think my biggest thing I want to leave with y'all with is don't feel guilty for not getting all the things done, because we're so hard on ourselves. Nobody else sees it. Our kids aren't going to miss our work. They're going to miss us.
Yeah.
So, and your friends, anybody in your family, if you don't have kids, they're going to miss you. They're not going to miss the work that you're doing and giving up time with them. They're going to miss you. So,
Thank you. That's a good one. I was just sitting here thinking, so you mean to tell me they're not going to miss all the audits that I've done for businesses at the end? Where can people find you?
So I'm on Facebook, Allison Murphy. Facebook made me change it. Instagram, Alie Murphy, and LinkedIn, Allison Murphy, I think now, because I think they made me change it as well. So, and then my website, www.finishgreen.com.
Awesome. So you guys can find the replay of this and all of our episodes on, of course, YouTube. You can find clips on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and TikTok. We finally crossed over to TikTok right before they are about to apparently shut down. So never, no time like the present. But we would love to, if you guys have any questions for me or Alie, even on a replay, feel free to chime in and ask, and we will get right back to you. Otherwise, if you are not following us on all things social, please do so and make sure you are subscribed to our YouTube channel so you can get updates as new episodes drop. But again, thank you so much. Happy Tuesday. And thank you so much for being with us, Alie.
Yeah, thanks for having me.